I'm talking about companion podcasts. And more in general, I wanted to talk about um, interactive media and how studios are getting to the point where they realize it's not just about the show, it's not just about the movie, it's about audience and fan engagement even after the watch or before and building up for the watch. Um, this one is an interesting one for me to try to parse out because I don't particularly view these myself. So it's a little difficult to discuss a trend when you're not really part of the trend. But there was some news that just came out that I saw where Tell Me Lies on Hulu, their official podcast, just became the most watched podcast for Hulu and Disney with like 50 million streams. And it's really going viral on social media because people like to clip little videos from it, and those kind of shorter form content things can then go viral, and then people go check out the big thing, and then people go check out the show. So I think studios are kind of banking on that to happen. Um, while I haven't seen that one, I am familiar with like Office Ladies, with also what is the other one, Pod Meets World for Boy Meets World. So going back, having cast members go back and rewatch massive hit shows that they were a part of, while also offering a lot of behind the scenes insights of like how things were filmed, what they were thinking at the time, you know, what life was kind of like, and just behind the scenes dynamics for making of for the actual film. But any just like kind of funny asides and stories that they had from being on set. So I think those are really fun. I think they're gaining popularity. But now it's not just the casts getting together and creating their own podcasts. This is like studio led. Um, Peacock has a couple actually, but Traders podcasts that people can then enjoy, kind of like cooler talk after every week you get to watch an episode and chat about it. I think that's what this digital space, the digital water cooler talk of, okay, well, what's happening, what do we think is going on in the show, who do we think is out next week, these podcasts kind of allow you to get even more of a look into the world that you're already really obsessed with. I completely missed it entirely, but in preparation for season 5 of Stranger Things, I know there was a podcast that I believe, again, I'm not familiar, but I believe it was kind of hinting at what might be happening in season 5 and kind of building that world. And I just think that's a really fun way to tease a show. I do think it's interesting that, like Stranger Things, I'm huge target market for, and yet I didn't know about that till after the fact when people said, oh, there was a missing file and that should have pointed to something. And, that was the whole conspiracy theory for Conformity Gate and a 9th episode. Um, but yeah, I kind of wonder, like, for me feeling chronically online, I don't know how I miss kind of the more super fandom things sometimes, but that's a really interesting one. I do remember, I meant to look up what the name of this was, but when The Walking Dead premiered, there was a show um, that would immediately premiere afterwards. Let's see, Walking Dead after show. Talking Dead, yeah. Um, Chris Hardwick, Chris Hardwick discussed episodes of the AMC television series The Walking Dead. And that was really fun because it premiered immediately after the show. It would talk directly about the episode that you just watched. It might have cast members on to kind of interview them. It might show some behind the scenes things. Um, and of course, Walking Dead is a big one in recent years that got a lot of spin-offs and kind of became this whole huge franchise. But I do think it's interesting to note that I remember that show. I was still this is so crazy. I'm like, well, I was still watching it on TV then. Um, yeah. But now everything is so digital, so poised for virality when you can cut up little, little snippets for reels and TikToks and that kind of thing. And but some other ones, I was trying to think of like other instances. I remember this. I just finished, I did a live stream previously where I spoke about, I watched the America's Next Top Model documentary, and they were showing how, Tyra Banks had her own talk show, and she brought on a couple of the like popular contestants and winners from America's Next Top Model, kind of like where are they now, but reunion shows. I was reminded that reality TV had these massive reunion shows, a lot of times on talk shows. Sometimes fights would break out, people want to see the drama some more and kind of get to stay with those characters, with those personas for a while longer. And nowadays, something that I was talking about with America's Next Top Model was to be a reality TV star was kind of like very taboo. You couldn't get more serious work after that. Whereas now it's like, oh, everyone's their own reality TV star, and we have social media. So you want to be on these different platforms and getting your name out there. So I think it's interesting. Do you think with these companion podcasts and everything, are we going to start seeing actors? This is now part of like the press tour, instead of just going on, late night talk shows and being interviewed, as well as like other kinds of podcasts and being interviewed, and everyone's actual press tours and the red carpets. I wonder if contractually actors are going to have to start promoting their films and TV shows with this kind of long form media format. Um, in a way, I kind of think it's a big ask of actors because I come from an acting background, so I'm just trying to think, about how much involvement is really really being asked of for like per project. So I think that'll be interesting to see because, like I said, it's quite a time commitment at the very least. I think studios are quite interested because it's very low cost, very high ROI. So, you can put out a podcast for not a lot of money, although if we start getting actors contractually involved and you have to pay them, then these big mega million pulling stars, seems like a podcast would also cost more. I don't know. That's just something that's interesting. But I do think studios are leaning this direction because it is kind of a low cost option to keep fans engaged. I think we're seeing a lot of that where studios and brands are really trying to deepen these fan connections. I've spoken a little bit before and I wanted to talk more. Maybe I'll do another live stream about in-person experiences and kind of fan events and immersing people in the fandom worlds. Universal's obviously doing that with FanFest. Disney has a lot of experiences. I mean, just theme parks in general. And even Netflix is getting in on the action with their different houses now. So in-person's getting really big. I remember this was one of my favorite ones. I actually did hear about this many, many years ago. If you remember the Emmy Award-winning YouTube series, The Lizzie Bennet Diaries, it was incredible because it's, it's Pride and Prejudice, but a modern adaptation for kind of like as a YouTube vlogger. But the thing about it was that I, again, didn't know at the time, they had those actors create Twitter accounts. Well, honestly, I don't know if it was actually done by the actors, but each of the characters had their own Twitter accounts, and they were still talking and tweeting as their characters on storyline in between when the episodes would drop. So that, again, fans can engage with them, they can tweet with them, all these kinds of things. And there was a whole like extra side of it where there's the show that's happening, and then there's the life beyond the show where fans get to interact with it. After the Lizzie Bennet Diaries, they had one called Emma Approved. Same thing. It was Jane Austen an adaptation of Jane Austen's novel Emma, and same thing where it's like the YouTube vlog style, but she's recording a documentary for posterity, and it's really cute. I actually really love that one. I mean, I love both of them, but they had at that time a fashion blog because that was like Emma's character. Blogs were really hot at the time. And so she had a fashion blog. I believe they even had like affiliate links. You could like shop her looks and all the characters' looks. And I just thought that was a really fun, interesting tie-in for the show. Again, So I'm always kind of wondering, how can we replicate this as indie filmmakers? If this is something that the studios are already pouring money into, I think it's really nice to say, hey, look, we can obviously share behind the scenes content on your social medias. You could create a companion podcast about the making of, interviewing your cast and your crew and getting some kind of some fun stories from the making of, like, bring people along for the process. I think audiences are really appreciating. But then to do these different fun tie-ins, like, I think the blog for Emma Approve worked really well because it had to do with the content that was being presented. She was into fashion, so a fashion blog made sense. So if there's something in your story that that person would be making a YouTube channel, or that person would have a podcast, or that character, is real. Like, there are just a lot of different ways to think about it, but I'm kind of interested to see where this trend is going to keep going. It does seem, very content heavy, especially with AI. Like, the quantity is just going to increase with what creators are being expected to put out. And yeah, so I'd love to hear your thoughts. Hope you're having a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.